All right, we're going to take a look at slope fields today. Um, they're a little bit tedious when you do them by hand, but that's what we have to do because if there's one of these on the AP Calculus test, you'd have to do it by hand. In real life, if you were ever making use of slope fields, it would be with some sort of technology, most likely on a computer. So for this particular one, dy dx, a differential equation, equals y. So that means it doesn't matter what x is. So the way this chart works, this 3 and negative 3 represents the point 3 comma negative 3. So it only matters what y is. So if x is 3 and y is negative 3, then dy dx is just whatever y is. So we get negative 3, which means regardless, so 2 negative 3, it's still negative 3. So all of these are going to be negative 3. Then here, 3, negative 2, it's just determined by the y value. So I don't want to rewrite them all. I'm just going to draw an arrow. This one is going to be negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So that's not so bad, but now we have to plot all those points. So we're going to be drawing a little line segment for every single one of those ordered pairs. Now the easiest ones to do are the zeros. So for example, if I did the point 3, 0, which is right here, I get a slope of 0. So I'm going to draw a 0, a horizontal line. So that's why those are the easiest. At the point 2, 0, I have a 0. At the point 1, 0, I have a 0. So you can kind of see that pattern. These are going to be zeros all across here. So we have those done. Then you might do the ones next. I tend to like to. So at the point 3, 1, I get a slope of 1. And that's easy to do because it's just a 45-degree angle. At the point 2, 1, we get a 1. At the point 1, 1, our slope is 1. At the point 0, 1, and then you can kind of see this is just going across here. So you just draw those in. Next, and you can do negative 1 next. So at the point 3, negative 1, you have a negative 1. So it's just going the other direction. At the point 2, negative 1, you get that, and then you can see the pattern for the slope of the little segments. Then when you do, let's do the 2 over here. So if I go 3, 2, at the point 3, 2, I have a slope of 2. So it's just a little bit steeper than the previous one. And at 2, 2, I also have a slope of 2. And at 1, 2, and you can see that those are all going to go across here. So they're just, you want to make them a little steeper than the previous one. And then I'm going to do the positive 3 next. So at 3, 3, again, just a little bit steeper. So you're just approximating. And it's just in relation to the other ones, they have to kind of show that pattern. Then we did the negative 1. Let's do negative 2. So at 3, negative 2, I'm going to have a negative 2. So it's negative, and it's a little bit steeper than the previous. And then for the negative 3, so then for 3, negative 3, again, a little bit steeper, because it needs to be a slope of negative 3. So that's your slope field. And you can kind of see a pattern that tends to kind of curve like this, which gives you a hint about what type of function it might be. So when it talks about finding the solution going through 1, 1, you don't actually have to find the value of y. You don't have to find what the actual equation is, the explicit equation. We're just finding a graph of the solution that goes through the point 1, 1. So you would locate the point 1, 1, and then you want to draw a graph that kind of follows that stream. So it appears that this would be sort of a horizontal asymptote. And we would expect the graph then to go something like this. And that would be the graph that would have that particular solution. And then for the next one, if we look at this, negative 2, 0 is here. So then this one would appear to do something more like this. So we're just getting a kind of a rough graph. And remember, I mentioned in the PowerPoint, I think, that I think of it kind of like the current on a stream. So, but you can see why I say it's a bit tedious. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this one. I skipped number 2, so go ahead and look at number 3. It's going to involve both an x and a y. So it's a little harder to make our chart this time. So I'm going to take the opposite of x and divide by y. So the opposite of x is -3, so -3 divided by -3 is a +1. Here I'll have -3 over -2, so I have a +3/2. -3 over -1, so I get 3. Here I'm going to have 0 on the bottom, so it's undefined. Here I have -3 over 1, so I get -3, -3 over 2, and -3 over 3, so I get -1. We're going to go on. So here I'd have -2 over -3, so I get 2/3. Here I have -2 over -2, so I get 1. Here we have a 2. I'm just going to draw a dashed line for undefined. Here we'll have a -2. Here we'll have a -1. Here we'll have a -2/3. I'm going to pause the video and fill in the rest of the chart. So then that way, and then you can pause it, I guess, and so you don't have to listen to me talk through the whole thing. And there the chart magically is filled in. So these are all our values we get. And then the next thing we have to do is plot all those slopes. So I'm going to start with the zeros like I did before. So at the point 0, -3, we have a 0. At the point 0, -2, we have a 0. At 0, -1. At 0, 0, it's undefined, so I'm not going to mark it. At 0, 1, we have this. At 0, 2, and 0, 3. So we have all those. Those are easy to draw. Next, I'm going to do the ones. So I notice at 3, -3, I have a 1. So again, I like those because they're just 45-degree angles. At 2, -2, we have that. At 1, -1. At -1, 1. And at -2, 2. And -3, 3. So those are all those. I think I'll go ahead and just do the 2's next. I might get lost in this. Let's just go in order. So if I go 3, -2, so 3, -2 is 3/2, so it needs to be a little bit steeper. 3, -1 is 3, so steeper yet. And 3, 0 is undefined. At 3, 1, it's -3, so it's going to be steep but negative. Then -3/2 above that, and then -1 above that. So at 2, -3, we have a 2/3, which is flatter than that one. And then at 2, -1, we have a 2, so it needs to be steeper. And undefined there. At 2, 1, it's a -2, so not as steep as that -3, but still that way there. And then we have a -1, and then we have a -2/3. Okay, you can probably kind of see the pattern to this. I'm going to pause it and finish putting all these little segments there. You could pause it and do the same thing. Okay, so there we have it. And if you take a look at this, hopefully you kind of see that this appears to be some kind of circle. So when we take a look at this first one, the 1, 1. So you find the point 1, 1, and then you kind of envision what this circle would be like. Okay, so kind of going through that direction. And then for the next one, for -2, 0, if you plot the point -2, 0, so we're looking at this out here. Okay, So that, now what I drew in red and what I drew in green would be the actual equation. So that this is dy dx. Our slope field is the derivative. We're graphing the derivative. But we don't know we don't know what constants there were. We don't know that information. We don't have an initial value. This kind of takes the place of the initial value. And so you are finding the graph of the actual function, not the derivative, but the actual function. So you can kind of get some information about it. Okay, we'll do one more together. This one actually is a little easier to come up with, fill in the chart, because it's just x plus y. So 3 plus negative 3 is 0, and then you're adding 3 plus negative 2 is 1. So you can fill these in pretty easily. And then 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1, and then we get a 0, and you'll see this pattern. Easy to fill in. 1 plus negative 3 is negative 2, then we get negative 1. Fill that in and continue. Negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 0. Oh, negative 0. That's a good one. Negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Okay, so there's our chart. And then if we go ahead and draw these in, now I'm going to do this one. I'm going to place the zeros first. 3, negative 3 is 0. 2, negative 2 is 0. 1, negative 1 is 0. 0, 0 is 0. And you can kind of see where these are going. And then the ones, 3, negative 2 is a 1. 2, negative 1, 1, negative 1. Wait, no, I'm not looking here. 1, negative 2. Wait. 1, 0. How about 1, 0? 0, 1. Here's the pattern. And the 2s are going to be a little steeper. Actually, I'm going to just stick with 3 now. 3, negative 1 is 2, so it gets steeper. And then as you move up, so 3, 0 is steeper still. So these are just getting steeper. And then at 2, 2, negative 3 is at negative 1, so I'll get that one in there. And then, yeah, I should have just done this. So 2, 0 is 2, and then they get steeper. I'm going to just fill it out. So I'm going to pause this. Go ahead and fill it out. Okay, so this is what I get for my slope field. So then when I try and think about the equation, the solution that would go through the 0.11, and this one's a little harder. Here's the 0.11. So I can see that it seems to be doing this. And then I'm thinking it kind of comes back up this way. Not really sure, honestly. I don't know what the equation actually would be, but something like that perhaps. And I could be wrong on this one, I'm going to admit. So then for negative 2, negative 1, looks like it's here. And this one is, I'm not sure. Okay. It's okay to not be sure. We're just kind of drawing, and I don't know that I even drew it well enough that I can see which direction it's going. I don't know if it's going this way. I can't really tell because of how I drew everything. So because looking at these, this was kind of hard to draw. On a computer, of course, it would have been much easier because then we don't have the human error. I mean, I'm seeing it this way easier than I'm seeing what's going on down here. This one, obviously, the pattern was much easier to see. This one, the pattern was much easier to see. So, you know, that could happen. What I'm going to have you guys do is you're going to be doing just a couple problems on the homework portion of this worksheet. So, and I'll post that on Google Classroom.